The brain is one of the most important organisms in the body, and without it, nobody would be able to survive. Due to the fact that the brain is such an important part of the body, it's important to keep it healthy. One way that scientists believe you can keep a brain healthy is through exercise. But there are so many different types of exercise, and each different type of exercise have much different impacts on the brain. That is why during this project I investigated how the brain reacts when people are doing different sports. I did this using a Mindwave EEG headset. The reason why I chose this topic is because of the fact that I like sports, and I thought it would be interesting to find what sport was best for brain health and brain activity. Like many people know, it is very hard to track brainwaves because they cannot be seen or felt. In fact, brainwaves are just small electrical pulses. This is a very physical challenge because of the nature of brainwaves. The way that I was able to overcome this challenge was by using an EEG headset that is specifically designed to track brainwaves. However, this was not a perfect approach. As will be seen later, this is also partially a mental challenge because it requires a lot of logistics and planning. The reason that so much planning was required was because of the fact that I need people to be my test subjects. And I needed to organize everyone when I was testing, and I needed to organize when they would show up. I also learned that it was very hard to organize people. It is most likely clear by now that this project falls into the scientific and technical innovation global context. The reason that it fits in this global context is because of the fact that I am completing a scientific investigation on what sport stimulates the brain the most. The definition of this global context is how we understand the world in which we live. This can be interpreted as a scientific experiment or creating an innovation. A large part of this project consisted of research to find the opinion of the scientific community. Much of the prior learning that I had occurred online with various scientific articles that will be detailed later in this video and in the appendices. Without a doubt, all of the prior learning I did helped immensely because it gave me an understanding of what I was studying. The MYP subject group that helped me the most during this project was undoubtedly science. The reason for this is because of the fact that it taught me how to conduct a scientific investigation that was reliable and set up properly. One specific example of this is when I was collecting my data. I knew that I had to record all of the data. I also knew that I should have a large sample size so that my data is a good representation of the actual population and of the result. Due to the amount of research that I had to do, research skills were a must for this project. One skill that I already had was how to critically analyze and interpret information. During this project, I became very good at collecting and analyzing data to identify solutions and make informed decisions. I believe that the reason that I became so good at this was because of the fact that I had to do it so many times for so many different sources. Some skills that I have helped to share with other students are how to critically analyze information and how to interpret information. The reason why I shared this was because of the fact that I found that a few students were struggling with this and they asked for help. Throughout all of my research, I had a variety of sources. The three main types of sources that I had were news articles that I found on the web, scholarly papers that, again, I found on the web, and websites. A full list of my sources and an evaluation of them can be found in my appendices under source evaluation. I believe that the way I set up my bibliography is relevant and appropriate because it is a common format that is widely known and accepted. Due to the fact that everyone is doing a different project, we were required to create our own criteria. Some of my product criteria include what my product will be and where my product will be accessed. The first criteria is that I will create a video that details my process and discovery. This is informed by my research because it is detailing what I have researched and the data that I have collected. This is a qualitative criteria, and I have made no changes to this criteria since I first wrote it down. The next criteria is that my product will include graphic organizers to visually display the data. This, again, is a qualitative criteria, and it has not been changed. Next is that my data will be collected from at least 3 different sports. Unlike the previous 2 criteria, this is a quantitative criteria, and it has not been changed. The next criteria is that my product will be one video that is 5 to 15 minutes long. Like the previous criteria, it is a quantitative criteria, and it has not been changed. My last product-specific criteria is that my video will be accessible to the public and live on YouTube. This is a qualitative requirement, and it has never been changed. A timeline of my product can be found in my appendices under action plan. Some major milestones of when I was completing my project was when I filmed the rough draft, and this happened on September 15th of 2016. Another milestone was when I recorded my service hours in ManageBack. This happened on September 14th of 2016. The records of these milestones can be found in my appendices, again under Action Plan or Timeline. When I was completing my project, I made no changes to my plan. I believe that this is because of the fact that I knew exactly what I wanted to do before my project. Without a doubt, time and self-management is very important throughout this whole project. Some self-management skills that I had before I began this project was that I was good at selecting and using different technology effectively and productively. This skill played a major part in the setup of my project and finding the right type of tool to measure brainwaves. Some skills that I developed during this project was that I became very good at being aware of mind-body connections. I think that the reason that I became so good at this was because of the topic of my project, how it involved the interaction between how the mind reacted to what the body was doing. I believe that I am a strong task manager. One of my strengths includes that I am able to bounce back from mistakes or failures. This is because I'm very persistent and hate not being able to do something. However, one of my weaknesses is that I'm not always being positive. This can be attributed to my strength, because if I'm not able to do something, then I start getting mad and I lose faith in myself. One very useful skill that I used throughout this project was persistence and perseverance. The reason that this skill was such a valuable one is because sometimes during this project it was very hard to complete it, and I just had to keep going to get it done. This also can be applied to the fact that this project was a lot of work and that there were many times that it was hard to keep going. Some self-management skills that I had shared with other students was some strategies on how to overcome distractions. The reason that I shared this skill was because I saw that they were having a hard time staying focused. After I created my product, I believe that it is of a very high quality, and I believe that I have met my goals. My goal was to investigate how active the brain is when people are doing different sports, using the Mindwave EEG headset. I believe that I achieved this goal, however, some ways that I achieved it were more successful than others. One of the most successful ways that I achieved this goal was by being very meticulous about recording my data. This really helped me because it let me have a very good record of how my investigation was going and what the results were. However, some unsuccessful parts of the way I achieved my goal was the way that I recorded my data. The reason that this is unsuccessful is because of the EEG headset that I used. This is because it is not the most precise and did not have the best software, so I had to work much harder than I would have liked in order to record the data, and some of the data might not be accurate. Even with the few struggles that I did have, I do believe I achieved my goal, and that it was very successful because I did achieve what I set out to do. Like I said earlier, my goal was to investigate how active the brain is when people are doing different sports, using the Mindwave EEG headset, and that my global context was scientific and technical innovation. The way that my goal and my global context connect is that my goal states that I am completing a scientific investigation, and my global context includes scientific tests. There are very few differences between the two. When I was writing the goal and selecting my global context, I made a good decision because there is no other global context that fits my goal so closely. I believe that my product is very clear and states everything clearly. An example of this can be seen in my proof of product or my product. There were many critical thinking skills that I used throughout this project. However, some skills were more appropriate than others. Some skills that were appropriate to this project were evaluating evidence, arguments and propositions, and troubleshooting systems and applications. The reason that evaluating evidence was so important was because of the fact that I had to do so much research when completing this project. In order to make sure that I had an accurate amount of background information, the ability to troubleshoot systems and applications was very important. The reason that this was such an important skill was because when I was first setting up the EEG headset, I had trouble connecting it to the computer application that I was using. Without this skill, I would not have been able to complete this section of the project, and therefore I would not have been able to complete this project. One skill that was not useful to this project was recognizing unstated assumptions and biases. The reason that this skill was not useful was because of the types of sources that I was using. In the sources that I was using, the authors were really good at setting out both sides of the argument. When I was doing my research, I learned many new facts that I did not know before my project. One major item that I learned when I was doing my research was what type of tools that you use to measure someone's brainwave. This was the idea that spurred on this project. Some other facts that I learned during my research was that exercise is important to a healthy brain, and that exercise helps maintain neuroplasticity. The fact that exercise is important to a healthy brain helped me develop the idea for what I was testing. The idea that exercise helps maintain neuroplasticity also helped me develop the idea of what I was testing. Some thinking skills that I had before this project included troubleshooting systems and applications. This project helped me to develop my thinking skills because it forced me out of my comfort zone and forced me to think in new ways with a new topic. A thinking skill that this project really helped me to develop was how to develop contrary arguments. I shared this with other students by showing them examples of proposed arguments and opposing arguments. Throughout this project, I was communicating constantly with many people. Most of the people that I had to communicate with were my test subjects because I had to organize when I was going to collect data from them and what different exercises they were going to do. This caused most of my interactions to be relevant because it was a requirement of the project. When I was communicating with my subjects, I talked to them face to face because they were either my friends or my family. When I was communicating with them, the interactions were always useful and helped to further my investigation, because of the fact that I needed them in order to complete the project. I had a wide range of social skills before I started this project, but this project truly helped me develop them further. One skill that I had before I started this project was making connections between subject groups and different topics. This project helped me to further this skill because it made me make more connections between different subject groups. The way that I shared this skill with other students was gave them examples of different connections. Due to the fact that everyone is doing a different project, it is vital to create our own criteria. My first criteria is that I will create a video that details my processes and discovery. I did achieve this criteria because I did create a video, and it does detail my process and discovery. My second criteria is that the video will include graphic organizers to visually display the data, and my report does include graphic organizers. My third criteria is that my data will be collected from at least 3 different sports, and yes, I did collect from 3 different sports: soccer, running, and cycling. My fourth criteria is that I will create one video that is 5 to 15 minutes long, and yes, my video does meet this criteria. My last criteria is that my video will be available to everyone on YouTube, and yes, it is live and public on YouTube. I believe that I have a very good product, and that it has many strengths and very few weaknesses. One of the strengths include that the video is easy to understand, and the fact that the video is clear and in a good format. Another strength is that the video is available to everyone and public on the web. One of the weaknesses of my product is that I do not think it is very creative, and this could be one of the areas that I could improve. Completing this project has helped me understand the topic of brainwaves and of how the brain is influenced by the body. An example of this is my understanding of different types of brainwaves. Before I started this project, I had no knowledge of the different types of brainwaves, and now I know that beta waves are associated with thinking and decision making. After completing this project, I have a much better understanding of the global context, scientific and technical innovation, and what it means. Before embarking on this journey, I thought this global context meant that it was just an experiment. But now I know that it is more than that. It is an exploration of the world. The way that I learned this is by realizing that I do not just learn about the brain and exercise. I also learned about how humans adapt. There are some problems that I encountered when I was completing this project. One of the problems I had is that I had to always have a computer with me to output the data to from the headset. The way that I got around this was by securing a laptop in my backpack, and then recording the stream with a free program called XSplit. Another problem that I had was that I had trouble connecting the headset to the computer that I was using. However, this proved to be a non-issue because of the fact that the first time I was doing it. And the reason for this is because it is very new technology, and it is not perfect. This project has helped me grow immensely as an IB learner. I believe that this project has helped me become much more knowledgeable. An example of a knowledgeable learner is someone who explores concepts and ideas in a wide range of disciplines. Before I completed this project, I would not have even thought about exploring this topic. But now I'm interested in this topic and would like to do other experiments. Some of my strengths are building a consensus, exercising leadership, and paraphrasing accurately. Some of my weaknesses are participating in social networks, sharing ideas, and communicating ideas. Some of the strengths that I've discovered when I was completing this project was that I'm very good at paraphrasing accurately, and a weakness that I discovered was sharing ideas. An improvement that I saw over time was that I became much better at building a consensus. I'll encounter many parts of this project in the future because many parts of this topic are applicable to many future lines of work and daily life in general. In many jobs, you have to plan, organize, research, create reports, analyze processes, and write. Overall, this project has helped me grow immensely and has taught me a lot about myself and has also taught me many different skills.
During the investigation of this project, the main question that I will be trying to answer is how active is the brain when people do different sports? The way that I'm going to investigate this question was by getting different athletes to wear an EEG headset and then measure their brain activity. The reason that this is an important topic is because it has been proven that having an active brain can help with memory. The criteria that I will have chosen when I'm completing this project is to be able to find out how the brain reacts to different sports and how the brain reacts to unfamiliar sports. I will also include a good explanation of why the brain reacts in the way it does.